Welcome to the Present and Sober podcast with your hosts, Sam Goldfinch and Ellie Crow. If you want to make your life bigger, not smaller, then this is the podcast for you. If you can sense that you're destined for more and you're curious about how drinking could be holding you back, listen in and come on this journey with us. Through the interplay of mind and body practices, we will help you elevate your daily life and discover the wonder and potential of going alcohol-free. Let's make life bigger together. Hey, you lovely people. Right, this week we're talking about self-inquiry, right? Now, there's a lot to this. It's not just about asking ourselves questions. There's a whole bodily, somatic element to this, and we're just super excited to put it out there. Once again, you may be able to detect something going on here, slightly under the weather, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and I'm just going to hand you over to me and Ellie. Love you all. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. See you soon. Action.
Hello, action.
Hello,
Kites,
action.
kites, lights, camera, and action. And there's no, Mr. Sam, just FYI, there's no bank robbing horses allowed in this episode.
No, you can't do that. You just said no. You just declared no horses. But here we are talking about that.
No bank robbing horses
Yeah,
allowed.
okay. They'll be doing something else today.
Yeah, off. I don't know, greyhound racing or something, maybe, with their badger friends.
Don't wait. You can't do. Don't wade into territory that isn't yours. You can't.
That's just where in my head. Oops, that's just where the horse was.
I've got images of if greyhounds racing around the track were actually mini horses. Now, that's what's in my head.
Okay. This is why we shouldn't be allowed to podcast. But who's going to stop us?
No one. Well, I don't know. Maybe, hopefully. You must stop immediately. Like when they send out letters to stop research.
Cease and dismissed. What?
No.
Oh, God, I can't
whatever it is, you know what you mean? But we're going to get a letter.
Desist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before somebody tells us to stop, we're going to try and finish off our series.
Into self-inquiry.
Have you just bombed my intro again?
Sorry.
Fuck's sake.
Seems like I have.
Fuck's sake, Sam. So if you didn't hear Sam's rude interruption there, we're talking about self-inquiry today. And it kind of comes nicely after the very strange episode we did last week about self-talk.
Maybe we should never have done this.
What, this one or all of them? Previous, the whole thing. The world would be a very different place.
Yeah, my world would.
Yeah, everyone's world would. So, we're going to talk self-inquiry today. And now I've forgotten what I was going to say about it. Oh, God.
Well, I'll inquire.
I just lost my mojo, mate.
I'll inquire into what's into self-inquiry. We were going to talk about what on earth we're bloody on about. What do we even mean by self-inquiry?
Oh, are we starting there, or are you just going through the whole list?
No, that's where we're starting. I thought we'd just start where we said we would. Yeah. Have you got your mojo back?
Say it again. What do we mean by it?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, this is going to be a long episode. Ooh. Not necessarily by time, but just by my interpretation of time, my experience of time. So
come on, we're waiting.
What we mean by self-inquiry is our propensity, ability, and skill to listen to self, to tune in. And I'm pretty sure in the wackiness of last week's episode, we were talking about tuning in, more so from the voice, the self-talk voice side of things. And this isn't necessarily just about listening to ourselves in terms of what we hear, but orienting to a place where we are curious and interested in what's happening in the totality of our own experience, meaning everything that makes up that experience, not just the thoughts that we identify or the series of words that we hear in our head, but how we're feeling moment to moment, what we're sensing, what we are, keep saying tuned into. I know what I mean by being tuned into something, but maybe we could expand on that a bit. So that's it. That's what we're talking about. Anything to add, Mr. Sam? If I missed anything glaringly obvious?
No, just that, I keep thinking I'm being really quiet. That this is oh my Lord, that it is about much more than the voice in our heads. There's a whole world going on. And many of us are kind of innocently kind of disconnected from all that. So we kind of don't know how we feel, or we've never looked in that direction. We're kind of very in our head, or we're trying to find the answers out, trying to figure the answer out with our words and all that kind of stuff. When actually there's a whole world of sensing, and there's a body mind. There's not really a distinction between the two. They're kind of one and the same, and science is showing this again and again and again. And the power of just even like breath work or something like that, that's a way of communicating with ourselves. That's a way of inquiring what's happening in our body, and very quickly having very fast physiological effects in terms of blood pressure, in terms of like the pH of our blood, all sorts of crazy stuff. So we want to just widen people's understanding of what it means to inquire, because it doesn't just mean like the kind of like interrogation, just like what's going on here kind of stuff. There's a somatic world here as well, like a body world and a feet of feelings, and that's very powerful as well to kind of open up to that and just give it a seat at the table if you might not have done that before.
Yeah, I like how you put that. It goes alongside nicely to what we were saying last week about things neither being good nor bad, but they just are, and to orient favorably to all of them and include them and see what's there to be gifted. There may be something to learn, there may be something to notice, something to let go of. But being open to that experience gives us options, as opposed to just kind of bumbling along through life like I did for many, many years, entirely disconnected from myself, and not. It was really poignant when you said about not really knowing how you feel.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say some of that for me was because I literally would not allow myself to feel. I was always off in the future, always out predicting what was going to happen, forecasting what was going to happen, crystal ball gazing. And that was a really good distraction. Not necessarily that it was a conscious thing, but it was a really good distraction from the present moment and what's happening, and being able to attune to that.
Yeah, I honestly think for a lot of people, if we're to ask ourselves, how do I feel? A lot of people are like, I have no idea. I don't think I even know. And our kind of our understanding of that kind of world is kind of limited, right? We're like, am I angry, or am I like kind of, is it something that like what's going on kind of stuff? And it's not that we need like specific labels and that we need to be completely, literate in that world or anything, but actually it's just the curiosity and the holding of that space can be really, really powerful. And it seems like a doorway to other stuff. So, we'll kind of talk about tuning into our inner knowing and wisdom and things like that. But one of the doorways to it is actually just being with what's going on for us in the body. So, and that often is as simple as just, we in a lot of our programs, in many things that we do, and I often find myself kind of saying to people a lot, is just actually give yourself 5 minutes or a minute to just be with yourself, to just, you're not trying to change anything. You're not trying to think yourself, if you've got a head full of thoughts or whatever, so be it. Whatever feelings and sensations are with you, so be it. But don't listen to any music. Just give yourself that 5 minutes to just sit and be with yourself. And just notice, are you really tense? Because I think for so many of us, we're just not relaxed. We're really activated. Our whole kind of so the other day, my brother was helping me out with some mobility stuff. We'll have to get him on the podcast actually, because his knowledge around posture and stuff like that is amazing. But he was talking about, relax, man. I'm like, am I not relaxed? He's like, no, dude. Like you're just, your entire central nervous system is activated right now. Like you're not even I can't even get you like you moving in the way that I want you to be moving, because you're not relaxed. Well, I and then you start to breathe, and then you start to let go more and more, and there's whole layers of relaxation and whole layers of like physiological kind of response and ways of being that many of us we don't even know are there. We don't even realize how tight we are very often. We don't realize that we're like holding our jaw, clenching our teeth, all those kinds of things through the day. So this kind of first element of inquiry is as simple as that. Is actually just taking some time to actually sit and be with yourself, and am I relaxed? Like, what's actually going on for me right now? And just feel into it, really.
What do you think about old I'm doing old Brené and her? Have you had a look at her book Atlas of the Heart?
I haven't read Atlas of the Heart. I know of her stuff, and I've read a fair amount and watched a few of her videos and stuff like that. But no, what leapt out at you?
Well, so that book, it's a really lovely put together book with some lovely illustrations and what have you. It's like a really nice thing to kind of dip in and out of, as opposed to a front to back read. But what she's trying to give people is, like sometimes you see these wheels that will have what are they called, emotion wheels, maybe,
yeah.
Where it's different emotions, and then you have like the central bit, and then it goes out, and there's lots of different options that would say, like we have those things. What are they, like sad, mad, and what is it? Sad, mad, and happy, or something. Like like most people can tell.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
I'm one of these three, but nothing else. And so those wheels can help get to kind of a deeper level, or a more acute understanding of what's happening for you in your experience. And her book is like that, in that she's helping people to put language to how they're feeling, and that aiding with the process of metabolizing emotions. So I do think it's a help. It's interesting, because I think it is helpful because we share a common language, but then ultimately all of these words are fucking made up, aren't they? So it's, on the other hand, it's crackers. Like if we did let the horse back into the conversation, then would the horse even know what resentment was? Because it's not.
Whether they, I mean, this is the thing. I guess our emotional spectrum is different because of the beautiful kind of like gifts that we've been given, and the self-referencing that we have, and the ability that because we have the self-concept, we can then feel self-conscious, right? And we can feel judgment, things like that, which I guess that's why the example of the horse that robs the bank is curious, because to me you can see the kind of it draws a line between our experience and many animals, and what's going on for them and what's going on for us, as far as we know anyway, as we're kind of guessing from our side of the fence. You said something really powerful though. You said in the end, it's about the words are meaningless. Like they're concepts ultimately, right? They're kind of labels that we use. It's funny though, it looks to me that on the way to kind of letting go, it can be helpful to almost So I have two thoughts on this. One of them is, for some people, I think it can be very helpful to get that emotional kind of literacy from the emotions wheel, where they figure out, oh no, actually this isn't anger, this really is rage, or like this is frustration, or this is, and then looking at the kind of things that can be hiding behind that, you know. So for many people, anger, you know, when people are feeling you know, unheard and things like that, or like not listened to, like that's the pointy edge of that, for example. So just get so, but then it's always ends with letting go of the concept. So sometimes you conceptualize it to then be able to let go of that and be with it in the body. But it doesn't look like a requirement to me. It looks like if we can learn, and this is kind of the way that I've sort of gone about it, to just open to everything behind the concept and just welcome it and just be non-judgmental of it and be with it, and they ebb and they flow and they move and they change. And like you say, if you intimately know, if you get to know anger into if you invite it in and you release it with the word anger attached to it or not, that doesn't look like the important thing to me. It looks like it's truly being with it and opening to it and knowing that it's not wrong, and then allowing it to flow through us and go on its own journey.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much to this. Sorry, go on. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say we're just not used to inviting this stuff in. Typically, we speak to people every day that are trying their best not to feel things, being afraid of feeling things, suppressing things that, or running away from things that they don't want to feel. And it can feel really insurmountable. But I think it's off the back of, like, the more that you, I'm sure I've said this before, but, you know, the more that you turn away from something, and, you know, we use a safety behavior to avoid something, then the thing that we're avoiding becomes bigger. You know, we fear it more because we're not exposing ourselves to it. And so the thing that we typically don't want to hear, like the whole spider phobia thing with me, is, you know, like I went through every option to not have to be exposed to them, employed many safety behaviors, spent a lot of money on trying to get rid of my spider phobia by avoidance measures. And of course, none of them work. And then the thing that somebody tells you is, well, you know, I can help you, but you're good. Like, the bad news is, the good and the bad news is, you're going to have to be exposed to them. Oh, fuck. But it works. It works.
Well, I mean, I think one of the huge side effects of being in an emotion phobic culture that has a story about many different things, and grief, and the way that we have the kind of story and the narrative we have around death and all these different things. One of the byproducts of that is that we run away from some of these things, and we can do that for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And then we can get so scared. We can innocently scare ourselves so much about what the feeling is. And so we come up with all these different, a lot of this is unconscious. We come up with all these different ways of not having to feel it. So alcohol, drugs, you know, anything, food, all these different things that we're using. And then at some point, but actually, I mean, I've witnessed this a lot, where people actually fall into a state of safety, and they start to really feel safe, and they feel something for the first time. And I'm not saying that this is always the case, but sometimes it can be 5 minutes of deep, you know, heartfelt experience, and it may be tears and the body, you know, really releasing it, and breath, and people are like, is that what I've been avoiding for 30 years? And it's like, yeah, man, like that is. And sometimes it might be, if it's like grief or something like that, there may be some waves to it and ebbs and flows and stuff. But there is no feeling that any of us can't be with. What we do is we scare the shit out of ourselves by thinking something is going to last forever, that it's never going to change. We think if I start crying, I'm never going to stop. And we have all these concepts about what it will be like. But that's not what it's actually going to be like. And it's not that it's comfortable. It's not that, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's exactly it. And I think if you go to a culture that just doesn't have that kind of, it's sort of like way of viewing or looking at emotions and things like that, which I think these days well, particularly in the West, cultures do run away from feelings. There's just a really different, people just everyone has their own problems in every country. Of course, we've all got our cultural things that are a bit sticky. But there's just less suffering being innocently generated around that. Which is why when you go visit somewhere like India, if you've come from like the UK or America or Europe or somewhere, and you're like, what the fuck's going on here? There are places where there's like these people's attitude towards death and dying and things like it's so different. The idea here that you would say, I don't know, if to like leave a body in the house, for example, and go through ritual and go through kind of, or it's just so alien to people. People are, I can't do that. I couldn't do it. Like it's like but it's just constructed. All of this stuff is made up. It's all, and some of it is helpful and some of it isn't. So anyway, but I think that this is the real beauty of genuine self-inquiry, of being with whatever is there for you. Is that you just open up to this whole world of feeling that you didn't know existed, because on the other side of that, so if there is that thing that you haven't felt for a very long time, once felt, I mean, there's everything you've been trying to create for however many years, this side of it is on the other side of it. The peace and the equanimity and that stuff, it's all there. It's just waiting to come through. The only thing those feelings have wanted is to be felt.
Yeah, because they'll guide us. Naturally, they'll guide us. We talked last week about how it feels to live authentically or inauthentically. And so this is the route to, the way of integrity with yourself. And that may come along with life circumstances and experiences that are difficult and challenging, and emotions that feel challenging in the body. But overall, you have that like steadfast knowing of safety and being able to include all of it, and knowing, even in the depths of it, that it's like breaking through another husk and being able to grow and expand from there. It's a really beautiful thing. But it starts with caring enough to notice gently. I liked what you said earlier about relaxation, and because even just noticing where tension is in your body at any particular time, and then being able to release it, because everything's connected, right? So you release something somewhere in the body, and then things start to flow better. And then generally you can feel entirely different.
So the breath is such an incredible thing for this. It just looks like a lot of people that I have sort of worked with go, really? Is it though? Is it really that? Like, you've taught me, absolute huge fan of like 4-8 breathing or something like that, where we've got a longer exhale than inhale, just to, bring the rest and digest system on, just make ourselves feel good. And like, yeah, I'm like, absolutely. Because if you just take that time to do that, to just breathe a few times a day, there's some great books about this now. I don't think it with the breath. I honestly, because people often say to me, "Oh, what's all the kind of cool shit you can do?" And I'm like, look, I don't think it really matters whether you want to go and experience like Wim Hof stuff or go and do pranayama, or whether you want to go and do any kind of thing like that. They're all like powerful. They're all like reconnecting you with your physiology. So I think it's just what speaks to you. And I tend to teach 2 or 3 incredibly simple breaths. So I don't think we need to be any more complicated than that, unless it's something that you really get into. But I don't see it as being necessary. The other day, as you know, I had a really intense experience. I don't know what I did with my back, but I don't know if I had a combination of a muscle pull and nerve something, but it was wildly painful. And I felt my body start to go into shock, start to go into like panic from it. And what was nice was, consciously, the only thing I heard was like, breathe. So I just automatically started 4/8 breathing. And look, it was fucking painful for a day. It was really, really physically painful. But the breath was just my mate. It was just there helping me, just reminding me, there was no way. Like, if I had gone into my head to try and talk myself down and tried to inquire at that level, right? So it looks like at some level, inquiry is just like being with what's happening in the body. Like, it's not an intellectual inquiry. Not that that's useless, but actually the thing that I think many of us we're pretty good at intellectual inquiry. What we're potentially not so good at, or don't even know, is that there's a whole level of inquiry that's at the felt level, that's at the somatic level, the body level. And one of the beautiful things about that is that's where your inner kind of knowing is as well. So, if you've had a way of thinking the world works in a certain way, something you learned when you were really small, and then you just, every time you go into a situation with someone or whatever, you flick into that default programming. Well, sometimes there'll be a real feeling of you of like, no, you don't want to do this right now. The more you can tune into that wisdom will melt that crap, like those programs and stuff. It can melt it. It can show you and guide you. I was at an event when was this? Last year sometime. And a guy called Dickon Bettinger, who I love listening to Dickon speak. He's really just a lovely guy. And he was talking about how just finding that feeling of like being home, being peaceful, being relaxed, that feeling will teach you. He made a decision that he wasn't going to parent from anywhere other than that space. So when he found himself caught up, like in his head, he'd say to his kids, "You're not going to get the best of me right now. Let's not do this right now. Let's wait." And then when he felt kind of calm and had clarity and the snow globe had settled, then he'd go and say, "Right, let's have the conversation." And the way he put it was like that feeling taught him how to reparent. Like it completely took him out of reactivity, and he's human, so it's not that those things never came up again. But when he noticed, he was able to step aside and actually be guided by his wisdom more. And I've noticed in the last few years, for me, I feel like a lot of my relationships have started completely afresh again. Like, I know, so like, I don't really know how to explain it, but I feel like because I'm coming from that feeling, I feel like I'm just suddenly able to just be with people and just without any of that as safety. I don't need a way of being. I don't need to react in a certain way or any of that. I've kind of started to let a lot of that stuff go just naturally. I haven't had to, it's not a conscious trying. It's just because of the direction that we look in and all these things, right? Over time, these things happen. And it's wonderful because I feel like I'm just more me. I feel like I'm not, when I hang out with people, I might previously have, been reactive, and I'm just less that now, which is lovely. And that's available for all of us. And it's just from feeling what's going on internally.
Funnily enough, I was talking to a client this week about like how we mask certain things, and she was talking about being introverted but feeling that you have to show up and be a certain way, or like effectively performing. And I was talking to her about this experience I'd had on a retreat that I went on, where at the sort of the outset of the retreat, I'd had like one of these moments of there was kind of like a lull before I settled into this retreat, and I got caught up in all of this, like feeling really self-conscious and almost like questioning myself, like, why am I here? Oh, well, not even why am I here? Like, I don't want to be here, knowing full well that that wasn't my authentic voice. Like, talk about self-talk. You know, one of the best tools I've got is doubt the first thing that you think, and then listen again. And so that was what was playing out at this retreat. And the more that I could give, like not attaching to any of the insecure thinking, but just allowing myself to have the experience and to be in the space, I had this moment so we were all sitting down to eat, and my entire life of traveling the world with my other business has been entertaining people. So taking people out for dinner and talking to them. And I've always fucking hated small talk, always, but I've had to get really fucking good at it, because you're spending a lot of time with people, some of which you know like zippo about, lots of different people, and being kind of the person that's responsible. And I was carrying this forward, this like almost like I'm there to entertain everybody. Like, what a thing, like what a pressure to put on yourself. Like all of their experiences down to me. Of course it's fucking not. And how it manifested itself was that we sat down for this meal, and we're passing the food around and going through the pleasantries and the politeness and all of that, which is fine. And then I had this like urge to talk, yet it wasn't coming from a place of authenticity. It was coming from a place of wanting to avoid discomfort. And so rather than filling the air with talk about, you know, horses robbing banks and that sort of thing,
that is not small talk.
That's big talk.
Deep talk.
I decided that what I was going to do instead was I was going to suppress the urge very gently, and I was just going to breathe instead. And so I was breathing really, really deep and long. And something really interesting happened in that urge went away, and I was able to just be in that place of like feeling really connected. And it was teaching me that, you know, you don't have to speak to be connected to people. You know, you can have a much deeper connection with no words spoken at all. And it was just it was revelatory, because it was so beautiful for my own experience, but no doubt for other people's experience, because that energy was no longer present of, you know, talking about tension, like there was a level of tension there beforehand. And the breath was the vehicle to send that on its merry way.
Yeah, that's
now
really
I can't
cool.
remember why I was talking about it.
No, that's very cool though. I can remember being in silence a few times when other people aren't. So you can't, and just seeing these things pop up of like, oh, that's where I normally would have said that. That's where I normally would have like disagreed or agreed. That's where I would have like, and I realized like, wow, I'm bringing so much to this. And I love what you saw, because although you didn't use these words, a lot of my most profound insights these days come with a feeling or a thought of, oh, you don't have to think that anymore. Oh, you don't have to do that anymore. And I don't know what it is I've necessarily seen. But that's the kind of, you know, just some different options appear on the menu that weren't there before. Like, how amazing that for whatever reason in that moment, something had shifted in your level of understanding. You saw something and you went, I don't have to do that. I wonder what would happen if I just leant into the breath for a minute. And something that, had you kind of like someone had been talking to someone about it, and if you were putting together a plan of action of how you were going to conquer that, you'd have been like, oh fucking hell, it's going to take me a really, really long time to break this one. I've been like this my whole fucking life. Like, I'm a mess. Like, you don't, sorry, I'm putting words in your mouth, but it's, but
Fuck
no,
you, Sam.
no, but all you had to do was breathe. And you connected with who you really are. You fell into connection and in an insight friendly space. And so the other day on one of our Stay Stop groups, I was sharing the most profound thing that's probably happened to me in my relationships, which is, and this is probably going to sound like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, to a lot of people listening, but this is how insights often come afterwards. You're like, have I been a dummy about this for like so long? Like, that's how I feel. Like they're not like often, they're so simple. I was like, holy shit. Like, if I don't know what to say, or if I don't feel like I've got anything to say if someone's upset or something, I just won't say anything. I'll just be there with them. And I was like, because up until then, I'd always been like, fuck, got to say, like, silence or whatever, my discomfort, right? Not theirs. I cannot tell you the impact that's had on my life and my relationship with Robin and everybody. I couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. And it was an absolute revelation to me. I can remember one time saying to Rob, we came back from something and I was like, oh, I felt a bit awkward at the beginning of that. She was like, did you? I was like, yeah, there was a lot of silences and stuff. She was like, yeah, I don't know. It just didn't register for me. Like, we all have different stuff. But I've been the kind of person that, like, if you're standing in a group of 3 or 4 people and there'd been a silence, I'd be the person that's like, I feel like I'm going to break in two in the middle inside of me. I'd be like, oh, and it's like, that's going away. That's going away. And it's only come from me being comfortable with myself in silence. Because really it was just a signal that, oh God, I don't know how to be here. I don't know how to, I was like looking out there and saying, my feelings are coming from the situation. They're coming from this silence, but actually they're just coming from my stuff. They were just coming from my stuff. So listening, tuning in, or interoception, which is what we were talking about at the beginning, are my hands tingling? Like, what's going on in my body? Like, all that stuff, awareness and opening up to this other world, potentially thinking about looking at the emotion wheel and stuff like that, whether it be Brené Brown stuff or, yeah, thing's been around for a long, long time. I think it's like something from the 70s or something, isn't it? Like I don't know, actually, you'd have to go have a look, but I think it's been used in psychology.
Something from the 70s, like disco.
Yeah, I was going to say, or like, I didn't know
Blair's.
when. Yeah.
Afros.
Yeah. Are you from the 70s? You're from the 70s.
I was born in 1980.
Oh, bloody hell. God, I nearly good job I inquired about that, wasn't it? Rather than stated. Everyone knows how old you are now. If they can do maths.
Well, sort of, but then when was this recorded? If we don't date stamp this,
yeah, you're right.
Who knows?
We're probably not going to release this
till like
2060 or something.
Yeah, or 2080. I'll be dead then. We might not all will.
Be back with sauce.
On the climate crisis, doesn't it?
Back with sauce.
Back with sauce.
You'll be back as that'll be you. That's you. I'm getting visions of you robbing banks as a horse.
Well, that's who the badger sidekick is. Sam.
What? As in, like, you'll be a Robin, you'll be the horse, and I'll be
the horse, and you'll be the badger.
Have I shown you my picture of my magical spiritual wandering badger that I got the other day?
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Go on,
let's have a look.
I haven't got it here. I'm at my mum and dad's house.
I was going to say, well, you haven't actually even carried it along to your mum and dad's house. That's meaningful that you didn't bring it on the road trip?
I mean, let's be honest. That would be a bit odd if I had taken some art from my house and carried that in transit with me 5 hours. Mind you, I don't know. It depends. I mean, I guess there's stranger things than that, but cuddly toys. I forgot I forgot to bring one of them along. I normally bring Remy the rat.
Noe, little Noe was being upset the last couple of nights because she went and left Henry Hound at Daddy's house, didn't she?
Mate.
So,
Is he back?
No, he's still at Daddy's house.
It's all right. Daddy will look after him, hopefully.
We've deviated off from whence we were.
What a surprise.
What a surprise.
How did that happen? It's the first time for everything.
I just wanted to throw in a little takeaway piece of something to do if you do want something to do, because we talked about breath work.
Do it.
And one of the things that I just think can be so helpful to aid listening to self is something like any restorative or relaxation practice. So any restorative yoga or something like yoga nidra can be really, really wonderful. And so just looking up a little practice like that you can weave into your day somewhere. It might be something that you want to do in the middle of your days, some restoration time, or the back end of your day, nurturing yourself into rest and sleep. But it can be really helpful in getting more attuned and comfortable with the feeling body.
Yeah.
Particularly if you feel like you've been disconnected, or you might even not recognize it as that. But once you start to do a practice like restorative yoga or yoga nidra, then you'll feel your experience in a different way. So definitely give one of those a go. And my ultimate favorite yoga nidra teacher is the lovely Tracy with 2 E's, Stanley. So go and look her up.
Awesome. I would say go keep it really simple and explore some kind of breathing. But I think that's kind of the center point, really. It's the one thing that these days I notice that this didn't used to be the case, but my breathing is much more naturally, like it's deep breathing. I find myself going to it, and it's just really powerful. So explore what Ellie said, or go check out like some kind of like 4-8 breathing, or any kind of breathing on, go find something that you dig. There's some great books out now. There's a book. Anyway, we'll have to mention it. I can't remember the title, but we'll, go find some books on this and just find something really simple, especially if you're someone that isn't if you're like, oh God, meditation, that's not for me. The thing with breathwork is you're kind of doing something. So it's like it's a really, really powerful access point as well. So I love that. I love that.
And even if the only thing that you do is you notice whether you're breathing shallow into your chest, just noticing that and shifting that and starting to breathe into your abdomen will have a profound effect.
Huge. Unless you're genuinely running away from a tiger,
then it's okay.
Yeah, you breathe it. Then it makes sense to be in fight or flight.
Did you hear my tummy?
Or if you're running away from a horse that's robbing a bank
with its badger friend.
Oh man, there's some art. That is a t-shirt. If anyone can make that, I'll love you forever.
Yeah, we just need some badger horse art, and then we'll get some P&S t-shirts sorted out.
Yeah, I love it. Right, team. Love you all. Go forth. Inquire.
Go forth and wander.
Inquire.
Behave.
Yeah.
Don't rob a bank.
Yeah, don't do that. Love you.
Bye.